Hello. Welcome back to Lumps of Life. Joining me today is Julie. Oh, I should have asked you how to pronounce your last name. That was a very poor decision on my part.
It's easier than it looks. It's Sczerbinski.
Okay, so I would have been right because that was what I was going to go with. But as soon as I went to go do it, I was like, "Oh, this was a poor decision." So,
You're not the only
uh,
one, trust
yeah,
me.
and I'm bad with every name, so it's just a pretty common. Normally, I'm very good about asking, but I did not. So, um,
That's okay.
So you heal, basically you guide people through therapy and healing through nature. And I find that part of, I don't know, I guess our planet super fascinating
Mm.
because it's been a few years ago I learned about grounding. I had
Oh,
no
yeah.
idea any of, like, I again never even thought twice about being out in nature, putting my feet in grass. None of that was even stuff that I had thought about, didn't know there were any, like, my whole life it was the opposite. It was, oh, don't put
Yeah,
your feet in the grass because of the bugs, because of whatever it
exactly.
is. And you're actually, it's quite the opposite. So learning about all of the different ways that affects me, it's become like a daily ritual for me after my workout. That's how I start pretty much every day, is just sitting out in the sun with my feet in the grass and kind of decompress from my workout. And it it's so, I don't know, mentally changing, physically
Hmm.
changing, that it, like, during the winter it's awful because it's like, oh, I can't
Yeah, I
do
can't
this.
do
I
it.
want to get out there. So talking to someone that not only guides people but has taught people how to do this is super fascinating to me. How did this start for you? What was kind of your experience that led you into this world?
Well, first, I just have to say it warms my heart to hear that you're doing that.
Yeah.
Because now you have had firsthand experience of it and see what it's
Yeah.
really all about. And it can be as simple as that, right? So this whole movement of grounding and I think that people will say touch grass, like
Mhm.
that just excites me because
Yeah.
that's what this work is all about. It's getting back um, to what we knew to do way back when and what I think we're missing now and where so many of our problems are coming from is that disconnection from nature.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, to answer your question, where I think it was, how did I get into this?
Yeah.
Um, it was a long road. I actually was living a pretty fear-based life
Mhm.
prior. I stayed at home raising my children, and so it was something that I came to later in life. But as I look back now, I see I grew up very connected to nature. We lived in the suburbs, but behind our house was preserved like a community land
Oh,
that
okay.
people couldn't build on. And there was a stream back there and woods. And so as a kid, I was constantly out there
Oh,
playing
yeah.
in the woods. And, as you get older and you're in school and activities start coming along, it's just I started moving away from that. And then through my adult life, did all the things, went to
Mhm.
work, and really it was not something that was really on my radar. I didn't grow up in an outdoor family where we went hiking and camping or any of that. So it really became, I was very much indoors once
Mhm.
I got into school. Um, but my husband actually, about 15 years ago, handed me this book called The Crash Course. And it was a book about basically the end of the world as we know it.
Okay.
Like energy systems
Mhm.
collapsing, economy collapsing, really scary stuff. And I read the book and got scared for my family
Ye
and was like, oh my gosh, how are we going to survive? So I went into this whole like, I need to figure out how
Yeah.
to survive, right?
Was that where your fear came from, or were you very fearful before that?
I was very fearful before
Okay, so
and
yeah, that,
very anxiety ridden, fearful, all that. And then that just like pushed me over the edge.
oh, I bet. Yeah, because 'cause you're like, "Oh,
Yeah,
good, new fears unlocked about literally
exactly.
everything."
So, yeah, we ended up buying some land. I live in North Carolina near
Okay.
Charlotte, and every good survivalist knows you have to have a bug out location, someplace to go to get away from the city in
Mm.
case everything collapses.
Mhm.
So we started looking for land, and we purchased some land in the Virginia Blue Ridge Mountains.
Oh, that's
It was a
awesome.
little cabin with 13 acres at the time. I now have 40 that I own and
Oh, wow.
53 total that I use. But um, yeah, I went there thinking that I was going to create all these gardens and all of this stuff to learn how to homestead. And what happened was just being on the land changed me. I have memories of just being out in the woods and like weeping, just letting it all out. And what I realized was that the world could end tomorrow and I'm gonna be
Mhm.
okay. Like, we're all gonna be okay. And
Yeah.
so, um, yeah, it really changed me. And then spending time in the woods, and I got the message to invite people to come to the land, and mainly women, because I had, when my girls were little, I had paid like $35 to go to this lady's property and just sit for the day. Like, she had a bunch of women come, and
Oh, that's
we didn't
cool.
do anything but just go there and sit on the land, and there was lunch, something like that. So I thought, oh, well, something like that I should do. And I started doing that and creating nature experiences for mostly women to come and be someplace that they knew was safe and they could let their guard down. And
Yeah.
people started coming. So that's kinda how it started, and then after that, I learned about forest bathing and forest therapy and went and got trained, and it took off from there.
So when you were out on your property, do you have any moments that stick out to you where you felt that calling or experiences that you had with nature that kind of led you down, like kind of, I guess, understanding how powerful it was?
Yeah, I mean, just I remember one specifically in the beginning where I was talking on the phone to somebody and I was just sitting out on that part of the property in the woods. And after I hung up the phone, and I just realized like how I even viewed myself in the world and a lack of self-love and
Mm.
all of that. And I hung up the phone and I was just like crying my eyes out to the trees. And I had many experiences, emotional experiences, but what I found is that nature, nature is not an it. The trees are not an it. So nature is its own consciousness and being, and um, for me, it's my church, you can say.
Yeah.
So I find a sense of belonging there. I find a support there. I find guidance there, and through all the beings around me, whether that's actually hearing messages, which I know can sound crazy, but
It
hearing
really does
messages,
though.
yeah, or seeing things being reflected back to me just in the way, the natural world works.
And I think there's a lot to, again, it's like we were put on this planet. I'm very convinced for a reason. I can't quite figure out what that reason is. I think that's why I keep talking to a bunch of different people to
Yeah.
attempt to try to figure this out.
I'm not
But
sure I
I
have the
was
answer for you,
Yeah.
Jerry.
But I think there's pieces of the puzzle with everything. That's why I try to interview a bunch of different people about a lot of different things, because I was never religious. It wasn't something that it was kind of, again, I've said this multiple times, but I think at some point I lumped it in with like the Santa Claus type things where
Yeah.
that imagination went out. And then I think I just looked at everything like, oh, it's all that. That's just what it is, I guess. Like that was just and then through my, I guess, journey of losing weight or trying to be healthy, whatever you want to call
Mhm.
it, I I stumbled upon a lot of the natural stuff. And the more that
Mm.
I dive into understanding that our planet does really kind of have everything that you need, it all naturally
Yeah.
grows here for us. Obviously, there's a lot of modern day things that really help and aid in things, but with what nature provides you, you can get by in pretty much everything. It's most of these modern day wants more than
Mhm.
it is needs. And we get so reliant, whether it be like I used to take Tylenol, ibuprofen, whatever it was. It was
Yeah.
as soon as I got a headache, as soon as I felt pain, my immediate response was, oh, I need to take something for that. learning that, oh, hey, my head hurts because I'm not drinking enough water and I just need to go
Yeah,
sit out in the sun and put my feet in the grass, and getting the vitamin D, getting the water, putting my feet in the grass, that helps the headache and makes it go away. I don't need to,
absolutely.
and learning those things and kind of pulling that back naturally. And it really does. It talks to you in weird ways, because reading things about trees, it sounds so weird to like almost talk to trees, but we
Yeah.
go camp a lot, and it's very interesting because I read something once about being able to communicate with trees, and how like being able to touch them, they can almost transfer their wisdom because they've just been kind of
Mhm.
stuck in place for all of these years, and they obtain wisdom type things.
Right,
And it just talked about like the intention behind it. And I'm very much, anything that I read that seems like it can bring me positivity in my life, it does not hurt anything, it doesn't, then why not? If it makes me feel
right,
good, and there's, but it really does, like, I feel like when I'm out camping, the ideas are sharper, my energy levels are sharper, but and obviously you're out in nature, you're around trees, you're outside taking in the fresh air more, and you're not around the constant electronic. You're not around the
right,
constant, like, for us, that's kind of our way to disconnect from everything. So then we have very little electronics with us. We just kind of naturally live life, and always when we're out there, life gets better, life gets more simple, because you're not thinking about the day to day. You're not
right.
thinking about the bills. You're not thinking about all the people on social media that you're looking at. You're not thinking about the job. You're not thinking about the kids' activities. You're just in nature, being, again, back to that primal, like, real you. And it does, it's always such a good experience that every time it's like, okay, hey, we got to keep this, like, we got to
Right.
hold on to this when we get home. We can't fall back into
We
that groove and get right back into our loop. We gotta, let's stick with this one now. We feel really good and everything's working wonderfully, let's stick
Exactly.
here.
But it's hard because we're constantly bombarded with information, and so,
Yeah.
we're always in that fight or flight stage, but, um, you know, when you said, yeah, we go out in nature and we feel better, but it doesn't happen right away.
Mhm.
I'm sure you've had times where you've been out and the mind is still going, and it
Yeah.
takes time, but that slowing down, that going into the rhythm that you see out there or you
Mhm.
sense out there, that does bring you into a more present moment, into the present moment, I should
Yeah.
say. And then, the mind starts to get quieter, and the your nervous system starts to, oh, okay, I can calm down out here, and that's really great. And I'm glad that you're able to feel it, but there's actually science that proves all of those things. So it's not like, oh, I just got this sense that I feel better. Like there's actually scientific evidence as to
Y
being
well,
outdoors
usually
is good for us.
for me, anytime that I read things like that, I immediately go into an AI model and I'll start asking questions. And I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, I just read this. Explain to me how this can affect my body, how this helps me, the pros, the cons, the good, the bad, give me everything. And I'll
Yeah.
just let it walk me through it. And then I just make my own judgment calls on most things. I'll read it, and then if it seems like it's something that I can put into play that's going to bring positivity, then, but it does, it'll break down what it's like, what the actual benefits are for you. And when you read through everything that it does for your body, it's like, oh, this is wonderful, because that, the way it can help you relieve stress and not hold on to that cortisol is so helpful. And I'm convinced that releasing the stress and slowing down my life is so much of my weight loss, and the way that I've been able to switch my life and change
Yeah.
everything. So much of it is being able to just slow everything down. I always talked about before, my brain was like the 12-lane highway that went
Yeah.
through Atlanta, where everything's going directions.
One
People are
way,
on their
give me
phones,
another.
people are going different speeds. That was what my brain was like
Yeah.
with thoughts always. And it's like, okay, we gotta pull this back. Now I feel like I've got it down to like a 2-lane country road, where everything is just kind of going at a good steady pace now, and it doesn't switch back to the highway very often. But it's so much of pulling back to these natural things, like even the way my diet is, eating more
Mhm.
natural foods that come from nature, that
Right.
are grown organically, it makes such a difference. And it obviously it's all these normal, like, I guess, I don't like influencer type things that they push, but like that type of thing really is such a difference of feeling whenever I'm eating farm fresh eggs and fruit for my meal after my workout, the energy level that I get compared to if I went to McDonald's or I come home and
Right.
eat a bowl of cereal, I'm gonna instantly want to take a nap. If I eat eggs and fruit, I am ready to go. I feel good again, and I don't stop most days. And but it's that feeling that I get addicted to, where it almost feels like something's wrong when I
Mm.
do the other. Where and
Right.
it's like that with everything. I feel like the soap that we use, we switch to a natural bar of soap, and same concept. Like, and it plays out in so many ways of life where these natural things that can be provided by things that are on our planet tend to always make me feel better.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's only in the whole span of our existence, it's only relatively recently that we live like we live now.
Mhm.
Right. I mean, we evolved with the trees. That was our way of life. And so it makes sense that going back there, it's almost like a coming home. It's something that we
Yeah.
remember, right? And it feels good to us. But I feel like it's important to note that you don't always go outside and feel like, oh, this is so
Yeah.
fabulous, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And that is that is the work that I do in guiding people. So many people will come outside and um, with me in the beginning, and they're still in their heads. They're not able to slow down, and just to even in forest bathing and forest therapy, it is all about slowing down and
Mhm.
all about coming into the present moment and all about feeling the sensations in your body. And that doesn't just happen when you show up. That is the work that we're doing, is to help people to actually get into the place where they can have those kinds of experiences, because most of us show up outside and we're still thinking about our to-do list and what our friends said to us last night. And
Mhm.
so it's not like, oh, you walk outside and magically it happens. But I did notice a big shift after COVID, and I think, um, you know, when COVID happened, there wasn't really anything for us to do but go outside. That was like one of
Mhm.
the only things that we could do. And I think people started to realize, hey, I feel a little bit better when I'm outdoors. And I saw people all over my neighborhood walking because there was nothing else that we could do, right?
Yep.
Seeing how people come to forest therapy now and to the experiences that I guide. And we have a school as well where we're teaching people to guide. My partner, Kathleen, and we teach people how to guide these experiences, social workers and pastors and
Oh, that's awesome.
coaches and teachers, all how to bring nature into the work that they're doing, or even people that just want to be a guide and take people outdoors. But um, you don't just show up and be like, oh, I feel 100% better. Like, it takes time, and with a skilled guide can actually help people to release some of that monkey mind chatter and
Yeah.
really dive deep into connection with nature, which is so healing.
So, is it something that you're having, like, conversations with people while you're venturing through, or are you sitting in nature to do these, or how are they able to kind of, like, release the chatter?
We have a sequence or a model that we're using when we craft experiences, and part of it is getting people grounding. When you mentioned grounding and touching the earth, so having people arrive and getting them into a sense of, feeling your feet on the earth and noticing. Perhaps that stability that you feel in connection with the earth, you're also feeling inside you. And um, then after getting them grounded, then the guide will provide what we call invitations, and we call them invitations because they're not required. So when you go on a forest therapy session with a guide, nothing is required of you.
Mhm.
But the guide has invitations or suggestions basically for how you might want to engage with the land. And those invitations come from the guide's experience, the guide's own connection with the land, and the guide creates those invitations. And then the participants will then take the invitations or not. Maybe they just choose to sit there and breathe in the fresh air because that's what feels good to them in the moment.
Yeah.
But the invitations are designed intentionally to get people to slow down, to start turning their attention to the present moment, to feel what it is they're feeling. And through that work with nature, I've seen people have, many people have major aha moments and transformational
Yeah.
moments.
What would be like an example of one of the invitations that would get them to open up?
Well, a very simple one would be, and this is one that I use a lot just when I go for a walk. If I find that I'm like, oh, my mind is going 20 different directions and I can't get it to calm down, I'll just go out and say, all right, for the next 10 minutes, just notice who or what is moving out here. And
Okay.
so you may think when upon first look that nothing is moving. You're like,
Yeah.
The wind isn't blowing, nothing is moving." But as you really start to focus on noticing movement, you'll see many things are moving, and then you start to think, "Well, there's movement that we don't even see, the earth spinning," you know? So, that's a really simple one. That would be a
Yeah.
simple invitation.
And it's interesting because you made that comment earlier of having that aha moment yourself of how, I guess, like, I don't remember, did you say for me, it was, like, how insignificant I was where,
Yeah.
like, I had that kind of moment too where it you kind of realize all these problems that you look at on a day-to-day basis, how unreal. I guess they're not unreal, but because they are real and they are problems in life, but how little they actually matter in most cases. Obviously, there are some things that, they're going to stick with you and you're going to have to work through and battle, especially if
Right.
they're still going on. But when you are harping on old past things and you can't quite get past them, and they're things that you mentally think about all the time, or you have these little inconveniences in life, and then you go out there and you start like, oh yeah, I guess that really doesn't matter. Why am I so angry about this? Or like you get
Yeah.
involved in social media or politics or whatever it is that your day to day is, and you don't realize how, like, I guess, pent up and tense
Yes.
you are about these things. And then when you go out there and you're not around it and you start to relax and you're like, oh, that shit really didn't matter. Like, oh, okay. Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess we
because
can, I
that
guess I don't have
voice
to. Yeah. And you
that
start to
voice that's
like,
driving that starts to quiet down, and then and there's also a sense of, I'm out here and I am in part of this larger thing.
yeah,
Whatever that is, right?
yeah,
This wide web. I'm just a little part of that. But I'm an important part, like every other being that's out here,
yeah.
right?
Well, yeah, I very much agree with that. I think that that's been a big part of my, like, adventure through all of this stuff is trying to figure out what that is for me and what I want to do, what brings me happiness. And again,
Mhm.
it was the same thing, pulling myself back to trying to figure out what that is and who that is. What is my most authentic self? Well, if I'm
Yeah.
not trying to lie, if I'm not masking who I am, if I'm not caring about what other people think about me, and I'm just living life trying to be the best version of myself that I can be, then again, it kind of just works in that positive direction because you're mentally not holding on to that space, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
you don't mentally hold on to those things where, for us, speaking them out was such a huge thing. It still is. It's still something that we do on a very regular basis where it if something is popping up that makes us spiral, that is sending us into a negative, and we've gotten so much better at it. It wasn't always a very easy thing to do, but now we've gotten to a point where it's a lot different. It's a much different experience. We can kind of go to each other and go, "Hey, what is that? What was this? What?" And we can have a conversation about it. Sometimes it triggers things and doesn't go
Yeah.
super well, but for the most part, we can sit down and go through them, but releasing those negative patterns, releasing
Yes.
those negative, like the way we spoke about ourselves, like I guess the confidence, the insecurities, the different things that kind of hold you back, releasing those as well, kind of came through us again, just sitting outside having these conversations about different things that popped up in our brains. And then we were able to kind of work that back as well and unravel, like, oh, this is why I do that. Oh, this is why I do this one. And then I guess becoming aware of it made
Yeah.
it very, very different, because then when it comes up again, it doesn't hold that same power and weight over you, because you're like, oh, hey, I know this game. I've been
Yeah.
through this one before. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go away. You're just going to become slightly better at handling it. Sometimes they go away very quickly. Other times they get a little sticky, and I feel like they're a little harder to work through and walk through. But for the most part, being able to just verbalize a lot of
Mhm.
those things and speak out, like you talked about earlier, being fearful, those things that make you scared, that, oh, if somebody ever found out that I did that, or if I somebody found out that I think this, it's all of those things that for me held me back, and releasing those every single time led to some sort of realization, some sort of aha moment, where it was like, oh, this is why and then it was kind of the same thing. I clearly have a very addictive personality, and I kind of became addicted to it, where it was like, oh, if I push myself through these things, and when I have these moments, kind of realizing what they're meant for, kind of
Mhm.
understanding where they're coming from. Well, okay, this is a negative time, yes, and this sucks. This isn't what we want to be doing. But rather than losing your shit right now and going back into this loop where you spiral and you get upset, and let's how about we just like not respond, not react, not and let's just sit. Let's sit with ourselves. Let's not dive into the dopamine. Don't go to the food. Don't go to the phone.
Yes.
Let's just
That
sit.
see,
Let's
that's like mindfulness, right? Like, you're
yeah.
becoming aware of the patterns and the voice in the head, and when you become aware of that and you can sense that I am not that, right?
Mhm.
I am not that. That is just like a narration that's happening or a story that's happening. And I find that nature becomes an ally in helping us to discover that.
Absolutely. So when you teach people how to guide and how to do this, what is that process like? Is it people like, so obviously you talked about like the different leadership roles that this would kind of play into. What
Mhm.
does that process look like for you guys? How does that kind of play out for them?
Well, Kathleen and I have co-founded the Heartwood School of Forest Therapy recently last year. And prior to that, I was the co-founder of the Forest Therapy School for the 5 years before that. And um, during my time at the Forest Therapy School and helping to really steer that program into a direction and helping to create it, well, from ground zero on up.
Y
And during my time there, we trained over 400 people
Oh, wow.
how to offer these experiences. And then last year I left and started the Heartwood School of Forest Therapy with Kathleen McIntyre, and she's wonderful. She's a somatic therapist, but she's been doing nature-based work for 25 years. So she's been connecting people to nature for 25 years. So um, between the two of us, we've been working with people for a long time outside, and um, the school is really founded on four pillars. So, mindfulness is one of our pillars, somatic awareness, trauma informed facilitation, and earth based wisdom. And we've built this program on those pillars. And um, We have two ways of learning. So you can come for an in-person retreat experience. So it's like a 4-day in-person retreat, or you can do a 12-week online program. And sometimes when I say online, people are like, online for forest therapy, like what? But surprisingly, when COVID happened, many of us moved our forest therapy practices online. And you can do it because you, as the guide, are in one location, but you're guiding the nature experience with somebody who's outdoors in their location.
Yeah.
So it's still very effective. And so we have this online program where we're teaching students how to guide these experiences, and takes about 12 weeks to get them ready to go off and do the work. But it's definitely a professional training, but it also is very much a personal journey.
Yeah.
Many people are saying, like, this is life changing, and just their own connection to nature has deepened. So it's really rewarding. It's rewarding to watch this practice grow, and to see people care about the earth and care about other people. And yeah, it's just really rewarding to watch it all come together.
And I assume for the people you're teaching, it's a lot about developing that same skill of that mindfulness and then just understanding how to slow down and listen. Because I assume most of it is that intuition and just kind of feeling each person's situation, or is there like a more scientific method that kind of goes into it?
Well, we definitely, we definitely teach the science behind nature
Yeah.
connection and why it's so good for us. But the experience itself is very much not an intellectual experience. So, as a guide, we're trying to get people out of their heads. So we use mindfulness techniques, somatic awareness. It's getting out of your head and actually fully inhabiting your body, because our
Hmm.
body is earth body. So, I mean, we are made up of the elements, and same elements that you find in earth, right? So, getting people to actually quiet the mind and actually be fully in their body and noticing what they feel, which is difficult, because I think for our culture, it's very much like, let's not feel.
Don't feel anything. I don't want to feel nothing.
Right. I don't want to
It's
feel
yeah.
anything.
There's a lot, and I think it kind of falls back into that fear also, that fear of being different, that fear of
Mhm.
being made fun of, that and it there's a lot of it's what I used to do. I just pretended everything was okay. I never talked about anything. I never talked about any problem. I just put on that mask and walked around acting like I was perfect and that
Mhm.
everything was fine, and learning that speaking about that and not doing that, and it made such a difference in life. But then you see it with
Mhm.
a lot where that internal thing is not matching what's going on the
Right.
outside, and it's really hard to get to a point, I guess, where just speaking those things out becomes second nature, and being that again real version of yourself really comes into play. And yeah, it's fascinating how much of that played into my decision making, how much
Mm,
of that played into like not I just lived life not wanting to leave my house because it was
yeah.
just you just get tied into those loops, I guess.
Right. Right.
Um, so with the like the guided therapy, when
Mhm.
they're on these 4-day retreats doing these, is there any do you guys utilize any sort of psychedelics or anything as well, or is it just
We do not.
completely
No.
okay?
Yeah,
Because I
we
know
do
that's
not.
becoming quite a big
Yeah, that is
piece of it
definitely
as well.
becoming. Yeah, so that's not a part of forest therapy. And when I say therapy too, it's important to note that while I mentioned Kathleen is a therapist, so she's a mental health therapist, social
Oh, okay.
worker, I am not. And we don't train forest therapists, we train forest therapy guides. So the word therapy in forest therapy is more used as like therapeutic.
Okay.
rather
That
than
makes
mental
sense.
health therapy. Yeah. So, yeah, no, our experiences are not using psychedelics, but I can tell you that some people have
Y
experiences just from slowing down and being present, and transformational experiences that they may be like, what did I just step into? And
y
yeah,
Well, like
you know,
we were just
but
talking
no,
about that. We like
psychedelics are not part of it.
Well, we because and the reason I asked that was because kinda what we were just talking about, where for me, having one of those experiences brought a lot of things to the forefront that I
Mhm,
was running from, that I
mhm,
was not able to talk about, that I was not comfortable talking about, and I didn't realize how many of those things were kind of pent up in there because I spent my entire life not speaking on anything.
right.
I would go into comfort for everything, and I didn't realize it until way later that it was everything. It was like I had switched everything in my house to those Google light bulbs and things that I could just talk to and make it turn off my lights and my TV and pretty much do everything because I didn't wanna get up. I was
Yeah,
and I didn't realize how compliant I got on just everything being comfort, and it wasn't till I started pushing myself through different pain points and different problems, and I didn't even realize it at first. It was going through a couple different things, and then the aftermath, it was like, "Oh, okay, that wasn't that bad." Like, we got
yeah.
through
Now,
it, we made
did
it,
psychedelics
and
help you? Did
yeah,
you use?
it
Okay,
it really
so
did. It
they
opened
are
up.
plant medicine, so
Yeah,
there
and
it is, the natural world.
that's why I asked because I feel
Yeah.
like for me, whenever I did have that experience, I did not want to be in my house. I
Hmm.
didn't well, I just wanted to be out sitting in the sun. I didn't want
Hmm.
I could not get enough of nature. That was like I was having wildly profound thoughts and then giggling uncontrollably was pretty much how my experience went with it. And it brought a lot of things to light that I was not aware of. It killed the ego a lot
Hmm.
in different
Hmm.
ways because it made me think about things that again I was hiding from that it kind of forces you to see them. So it was very interesting. It didn't like freak me out. It wasn't a like negative experience. It was just
Hmm.
more like, hey, here's some things that you should probably think about. And once it hit my brain, it was like, oh, I can't unsee that now. All right, cool.
Yeah.
We gotta fix it. And then it was a lot of too seeing it in my kids and seeing these things that I was doing or realizing things that I was doing and then seeing them do it was a lot of that too, where I would watch that mirror back to me. It was like, ooh, okay, well,
Yeah.
that's not
Well,
good.
I'm
We
glad
can't.
you found the support that you needed through those plants.
Yeah, I was not expecting that to be it was just kinda one of those experiences that it was like, "Eh, okay, why not? Let's see what happened." I didn't really go I kind of knew that was the intention behind it, but I was definitely not in the mindset that I'm in now that and again, it's probably why I got to the mindset I'm in now, I guess. It opened up some different pathways that made me think about things very differently, but it was the same thing with the pain. Every
Yeah.
time that I sit in these moments and I again don't go to the dopamine, I don't need to call someone and vent it out like I used to. I just kind of sit with it and listen to myself and trust that I can make the right decision and that I don't need that outside thing. I don't need the phone. I don't need the food. Let's just figure out what's happening and try to understand it. And that's not always super simple because sometimes life gets heavy. Sometimes life
Right.
gets very
Right.
difficult. And then but in those moments too, pushing myself through those whenever I've had those on the back end of those moments have been some of my biggest revelations about things where things pop in my head and I'm like, "Oh, yep, that's what I'm
Yeah.
doing. That's not good." Like, "Okay, we gotta fix that or all some random idea will pop up or a couple random things will happen in life that put me back on a different path or a different track." And it's like, "Oh, well, clearly that's why I just went through that moment because it just taught me X, Y, and Z. And it,
Yes.
again, becoming aware of that and understanding, and again, in the moment, not always the easiest thing in the world to pull it
Exactly.
back and go, hey, everything's going to be okay. This is just temporary. Relax. It's not that big. You just need to control you and dial this back a little bit. We're not going to let it get us, like, you just let it go and we'll be fine. Everything is going to
Yeah.
be okay. And I can kind of walk myself back now, but it wasn't always like that. It was, I used to, like, I'm very self-admittedly used to have some wild anger issues. I remember playing
Mm.
slow pitch softball and I hit a fly ball and obviously knew I was going to be out, and in anger turned and chucked the bat, and it went right in between two people and smacked the fence. And instantly I was like, oh, that was stupid. Like, oh,
Ugh.
that was that. It's just that instant, like, gut, like, oh, you idiot. Like, why did
Yeah.
you, why? And that, just dumb things like that about, but it was because I was suppressing real things that
Mhm.
and I wasn't understanding that in those moments you can feel angry, but there's a healthy way to feel that and understand it and move forward and not need to, chuck a
Absolutely.
bat at a fence. That's crazy. Don't do
Yeah. Don't
that.
do that.
And it took a long time to get to that, but yeah, very wildly off topic there. But when you said that about the comfort, that was most of my life, was relying on comfort, not putting myself in anything out of my comfort zone. And for me now, anytime I do those things, it opens up a new pathway. It makes me think about, even if it's just something silly, like you take the same route somewhere all the time,
Yeah,
like just taking a different route and like
to
being
change it up.
cognizant, you may see something different. It may spark a weird idea, or like it. And it's so interesting how, like, as humans, we're wired for that consistency, I guess. Like, it's almost like a safety net, where, like, whether
Right.
it's traditions or your habits or these things, where I was so stuck in all of these grooves that I didn't realize that was what I was doing, where I was almost just living my life on autopilot, where every year was the same, all these things were the same. I did the same route to work every day, and it was like, whoa, everything in my life is a pattern, and a
Yes.
lot of them are not good ones. We've got to
Yeah.
start
Well,
doing some
I was right there
rewiring.
with you. Yeah, I was right there with you. I mean, for years, mentioned going into middle school and high school, how I pulled away from nature and,
Yeah.
didn't go back until 15 years ago. And um, yeah, so I've lived similarly. What I found though is that going outside into the forest, into the woods, and just sitting with the trees, and as we talked about, slowing the mind down, right? The
Hmm.
mind slows down, all of that chatter that's pulling you in 20 different directions starts to settle, and then what's left is you, right?
Hmm.
Who you really are at the core. And um, you know, for me, going out there and just being, and then receiving from the beings around me, from the rocks, the waters, the trees, guidance, taking a question outside that I may be wrestling with, and just
Hmm.
sitting and being, and seeing what comes up. I don't necessarily think necessarily that always comes from me, that answer. I
Hmm.
think that answer comes from a higher place, and that higher place is part of the natural creation. So when you're out there and you're being in that place, in that state of being, which we as a culture are so about being productive and doing,
Hmm.
doing, doing all of the time. But what we really need more of is actually just being, actually just putting your feet in the grass, feeling your connection to the earth, and just being. And I feel like if we all did that, man, the world would be a better place.
Oh, so much. And it makes me sad, because a lot of what I've learned through this is how much of our society is geared towards the opposite, and how many things, because obviously everyone needs money to survive. So there are so many
Right.
things that have been created that, whether they meant to or not, have become wildly addictive and pull people away from that. That's what it did with
Mhm.
me. And I'm assuming like same thing. If you just came back to it after 15 years, it inevitably hooks everybody, and we pulled away from that natural version of ourselves, and we get that, it's like that, like, conquest for more, I guess,
Mhm.
like, in our brains, whether I'm assuming it's just human nature, but you're always looking for more, and they're constantly giving you this, like, weird version of more. It's
Yeah.
not really you going to get more, it's acquiring more stuff, more
Mhm.
things, the newest version. So they almost took a lot of your primal instincts, and they figured out ways to kind of sell you a artificial, I think was the word I was
Yeah.
looking for there, an artificial version of that kind of, like, I realized that with sports, how addicted I was to sports and watching like football on Sundays, and how much time I was putting into that, and energy and effort. And it was like there would be times where it would like literally ruin my day if my team
Yeah.
lost. And then again having those realizations, and it was like, oh, this is just that primal instinct thing where it's again artificially giving me that fix. And then
Mhm.
you talked about earlier, I had the thought with, I I've dove back and forth into the like religious stuff. I read a lot of different things, and
Mhm.
again just trying to figure out what this is and what, but reading in the Bible that we were all made from the dirt, from the planet, that was one of the things that clicked with me, that made so much sense of why all these different natural things work for us. Because if we were made from that, and then suppose like you're supposed to have everything you need and trust in God as your provider, then it kind of plays out in that same weird thing. And then you look that the back of the Apple phone has a bite out of it, like, the forbidden fruit that you're not supposed to eat off of.
I
And
never
it's
looked
like,
at it that way,
huh.
yes.
And it's like, wait a minute, this seems like they might be up to something here. And I don't know that I like this, because you like, again, throughout this journey, my whole goal has been trying to get myself off of all these different addictions that make my brain not feel good. If I'm buzzing and my brain is going a million miles an hour, I'm spiraling negatively. What's causing this? And I've been able to
Yeah.
track it back to so many different stupid little addictions and things that I'm like, why am I addicted to this? Like, clearly this is what's causing this.
Right.
And it was all these different weird things that I was doing that I just looked at as normal. And it was like, oh, they've kind of hijacked a lot of these different things, and they sell you on that dopamine you get from them, because they are kind of hitting your natural primal instincts. They're just getting it in an
Yeah.
artificial way, and kind of siphoning your money in the meantime. But the more that I have pulled away from that, and make, again, being outside and doing things my entertainment and what I like to do, it changes everything. Like, my entertainment went from watching TV to I'll just randomly build fires and go sit outside
Oh, that's
by a
cool.
fire and
See?
play, because
Yeah, and
it
that's
I
an
don't know.
ancient practice, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, think about it. We were sitting around the fire like way back when. And so doing that, what do you feel? Like it's like a coming home, like, hey,
Mhm.
I remember this. I remember this.
Y
One of the things that I've noticed with oftentimes we take groups of people. So um, a forest therapy session may be with a group or it can be with an individual person, but oftentimes it's with more than one person. And when we do these guide trainings, where I mentioned those 4-day retreats, it's so interesting to watch the dynamic between the people. And
Mhm.
it makes me think of, how much we're so lacking in community, but yet when you bring a group of people into the forest, there's a sense of community there and it builds. It only gets stronger over the period of time that you have them with you. And so I had a woman who came on one of the sessions and then she went home. Her husband was looking for a team building experience for his work. And she said, oh, you should take him forest bathing because I went forest bathing. And by the end, I felt like I was friends with everybody. And that was just a 2-hour experience. But in the 4-day training retreats, what I see happen is people really developing connections with one another and people genuinely caring for one another. Um, when they first arrive, everybody's got their guard up and their walls, but the
Mhm.
forest has a way of quieting all that down, settling all that, and people can really be seen for who they are and
Yeah.
appreciated for who they are. And just like, the trees, I think there's that saying, I can't think right now of um, who said it, but the idea is that all the trees are different and we don't judge them for being different, right? And they're beautiful because they are
Oh,
different.
that's great. I love that.
And yet there's something about a group of people together in the forest for a period of time that I have seen that they start appreciating each other and genuinely caring for one another. And that's something that I don't see happen, normally, just in day-to-day life.
Yeah.
The bonds of community are not as strong as they are when you're in nature. So um, yeah, there's just so much going on out there that's incredible, and I think we need more of it.
Well, I think it's a lot of what we were just talking about too, where I think people are starved for that, where
Yes.
being around actual humans and not that artificial of you're just seeing what other humans are doing through a screen or you're texting people, talking. There's not a whole lot of face-to-face interaction. There, like we were talking about this the other day, that there's not a whole lot to go do in a lot of like, especially like I live in a small town in the Midwest. So
Okay.
like, there's not a whole lot to go do if you don't like, so that's where like going outside was such a big thing for us because there's state parks
Oh
everywhere. So we
yeah.
can just go venture off. It's a 20-minute drive and we can go into
Hmm.
a state park. But it seems like, again, with the phones and the way that's become and the way society is kind of almost like holed up at home since COVID, it that starve for that real human connection is
Yes.
very much real. So what you guys are doing not only is like healing people and helping people kind of find themselves, but kind of reconnect with other
With each
humans.
other.
Like, I
Yeah.
mean, with the
With
stuff
other
with
humans and with the more than human world too,
yeah.
which is so important.
Well, and
So
obviously
important.
we're kind of like at towards I mean, years past the COVID thing now, we're getting to see kind of the real life psychological effects that happen with everybody being stuck at
Yeah.
home for an extended amount of time. Like there were, I mean, I don't feel like we had a great mental health system prior to COVID, but boy, it seems like our world has gotten increasingly crazy. And I haven't been on social media for a while, so I don't know if it's still like that. But when I was on Twitter, it was the
Yeah.
the wild of the
I
wild
think it's
all the
still like
time.
that.
Oh, it was aggressive, and it was like I would get on
Yeah.
there, and it was just death, destruction, the world's ending. It's like,
Yeah.
"Okay, well, alright, I guess we're all dying now, this is fun." And I finally just I had to stop because I couldn't figure out what was real. I couldn't
Right.
figure out
And
what was
that's the
AI,
key.
what and
Right.
people just write and post things, and I'm very convinced that people pay people the groups of people to change the narrative of things because I would get on there and there would be the exact same thought posted by 4 different accounts in a row on my feed, and it's like, "Well, that's weird, you all had the exact same thought on this principle at the exact same time, written almost in the exact same format. That's pretty weird."
Yeah.
And it's like, "Oh, this is kind of bought and paid for at times also, because if you have a bunch of money and you want a certain narrative passed and you go, hey, I'll pay X amount of people $100 to post this thing for me, and you instantly change the algorithm. And it's like, oh, I didn't even think about that being a possibility, or that people just post literally whatever they want on Twitter, and it may be real, it may be not. And
Well, you're saying the key word there, like in AI world, we don't know what is real. And I'll
yeah,
tell you that in the forest, that's all you get is real.
absolutely. That makes it yeah, that makes it even better because it yeah,
Mhm.
in this world that we're kind of dabbling into, everything's going into that AI based, and I it's either gonna do one of 2 things. It's gonna turn into a wild thing that's gonna push everybody back to nature, or
Mhm.
somehow it's going to make enhance our experience, to be able to get people to be able to spend more time in nature. That's my optimistic brain, really being hopeful that they don't just, greedily destroy the world with it, because
Yeah.
that's an option too. But I'm going to speak positively and hope that it's one of the other ones, because I don't really want them to destroy us all because they're greedy. But it's almost, you can see it in the way people post things. You can see it in the
Mhm.
way people message. It's being used for everything. It's being
Mhm.
used for, like, it's taking over every single thing that people are doing. You're watching how the stores are all changing it and adding it, and it's just going to keep going. So the more people can be out in nature and learn how to do these things, the more we can utilize that to enhance that experience, utilize it to learn about nature, utilize it for us to take better care of the planet. There are so
Right.
many things that can be used for, to make us so much better at being humans and taking care of this planet and what we have, and utilizing what we
Yes.
have, rather than artificially going into all these different things that are destroying it. And I hope that it goes that way. I hope that the right people are in control of it, and that
Yeah.
they go that way,
Same.
because then people like you can take and show people how to do that. And then it just continues to grow and grow and grow, and more people utilize this beautiful planet that we've been placed on, and kind of use it what it was here for, I guess.
Yeah, and I'd say even not use it, but be in relationship with
Yeah,
it. And,
yeah, much better word.
like, um, yeah, I think what I'm hoping, and that's what this work is, and that's why it's so exciting to see how it's grown, and continues to grow. And, every time I see an article or something in mainstream media about it, I just get so excited because, and even being here and talking to you,
Mhm.
and the fact that you're interested in it is because, um, it's slow work. Like, we're only touching one person at a time when we're doing these experiences, but it's transformational for people. And the idea is that if you can, bring people into the forest and give them an experience, or allow them rather to have an experience of connection with the forest, then hopefully they're going to see the forest as something other than what most of us have learned the forest to be, or
Yeah,
nature in general to be, as a resource, right? Like, we're using nature for this, or we're getting our resources from nature. We're always taking, taking, taking. But what the hope is that people will come back into connection with the natural world, have a love for it, and through that love, they will actually want to care for it and
yeah,
want to protect it. And I'm saying it, I should be saying her, because
yeah,
we need to change that. We need to say, we need to stop looking at nature as, what can nature give us,
yeah. And
right?
instead of
Like, what are
attempting
we
to colonize
taking from
Mars,
it?
we should put those billions of dollars into fixing the planet that we already have.
Yeah. And
Might
so
be a
this work is slow work, in the sense that we're not, we're only touching one person at a time, but hopefully, hopefully it's impactful, and,
yeah.
heal the person at the same time, heal the planet.
Oh, I love that. So before I let you go, if you could give someone listening to this one thing that they could go do in nature that would help them in any way, shape, or form, what would be the one thing that you would pick to give them?
Well, I love your, go out and touch grass, right? But I would say, just start by going outside and sitting down for even 5 minutes. Like, we have this thing called sit spot, where we're actually saying go out for 20 minutes, but that can be hard, in the
Hmm.
beginning. Like, just go out for 5 minutes. And even, if you're not able to just sit there and be present, taking that invitation that I offered before of, in that 5 minutes, just notice what's moving around you. Watching the leaves move, watching the birds jumping from branch to branch, watching the insect, tiny ant crawling near you. I mean, it will change your life when you
Hmm.
become that present. It really will. So it's as simple as that. And then, of course, obviously, I say, if you can find a forest therapy guide near you, go on a forest therapy experience, be guided in it, because um, yes, we can all go outside, but it is just like anything. Like we can all do yoga at home, right? But when you're actually with somebody who's trained into how to create these experiences and give you a deeper experience, it's really powerful.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for giving me your time today. Please promote away anywhere people can find you or follow along with what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you, Jared. I'd say the easiest place to find me is heartwoodschool.earth. And yeah, anyone can reach out anytime. I'm happy to connect on social media or via the website.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It's been
Thank
awesome getting to
you.
learn from you and jump into all of the worlds of nature and its powers. So, well,
Yes,
thank
thank
you.
you. And thank you for what you're doing and the work that you're doing in your podcast.
Yeah, same to you. Well, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.